So if anyone's subscribed to Hythloday's channel, you may have seen a couple of videos that he put up yesterday morning. They were quite ominous in feel. I didn't see them straight away. I think he posted them about 11 o'clock in the morning. I saw them a few hours later and I was worried about him from what, how he presented in especially the last video. So I tried to get hold of him on all different social medias, but he'd gone radio silent, and tried to ring him and no answer, and then tried again this morning, no answer. Contacted a few people on his Facebook, some family members, and spoke to his son, who confirmed that his the video that he put up yesterday was what it seemed to be, a final word he called it, and it was. That's it. Hythloday has gone. He struggled with depression for years. He made no secret about the fact he was on the autism spectrum. Struggled with mental health issues and some physical issues for years. And he's had a little run of bad luck recently as well, some problems in his life and a few disappointments that all came at the same time, and it looks like that was too much for him. For those who don't know, he, for the last, I don't know how long, at least, it feels like at least a year, probably longer actually, he'd been pursuing a case for, he was trying to pursue a case for a judicial review of Julian Assange's incarceration. He'd done this without any professional legal help. He basically trained himself to write an amazing submission for the courts to apply for a judicial review, which would have meant, an official review of the circumstances and the fairness or lack of fairness and the legal manipulations and malfeasance that has been happening around the Assange case. And he took this interest on after having, he tells me, after having been inspired to follow this by, stuff that was going on with Assange and obviously the unfairness of the case. And he'd had some experience with litigating in the past, so he took this on to just see where it would go. And the submission that he made was amazing. If you want to see it, I'll put a link down below, you can have a look. I was so proud of him for what he'd done with this submission. He argued it like a professional litigator, solicitor, whatever it would be. Absolutely amazing work, detailing every little nook and cranny of how the state had failed and the unfairness that is that is identifiable within this Assange case. And he'd been detailing some of that in videos on YouTube, and anyway, he got knocked back, and then he took it to the Court of Appeal, where he was hoping to try and get an oral hearing, and that is where he really could have shone if he got his day in court, to have an oral hearing to discuss these matters. And after waiting quite a long time, he finally got a knockback from the Court of Appeal with a really vacuous, pathetic, just vacuous letter that didn't make any attempt to justify the refusal, which by law he should have had a right to an oral hearing at least, and they didn't even give him that. So anyway, he obviously put a lot of his energy into that. At the same time, he had a couple of other things happening in his personal life with the courts that he's talked about publicly, and he's got videos, and in his last two videos yesterday he talked about them. And he actually filmed an encounter with a man that came round debt collecting over some dispute with the gas board, and Justin brilliantly laid out why the gas company hadn't followed law, hadn't followed procedure, and hadn't taken into account the fact that he is officially a vulnerable person, someone who is registered as having mental health issues, and it's not, he'd attempted suicide in the past, but he's someone that is known to the system as a vulnerable person, and there is supposed to be certain procedures followed, especially with those kind of people, and they hadn't, and they just sent this guy around his house that Justin filmed this encounter, and Justin perfectly and professionally and politely explained to the guy why he wouldn't be cooperating on that day, and the gas board hadn't done what they should have done and all the rest of it. But this just looks like it was one upset too far. Like I said, coming in quick succession with his knockback from the Court of Appeal. I think that it was obviously it just amounted to a hill too high for him to climb, he felt, and unfortunately nobody could get to him in time or contact him in time to try and talk him out of it, or just remind him that these feelings pass. Emotions are just chemistry in your brain. As strong as they feel in the moment, time makes them pass, and you will feel better eventually. It's just how it works, but no one can get to him in time to remind him of that. So that's just wanted to let people know, because I know a lot of people were commenting on his videos wondering what was going on, trying to get hold of him, and because of the tone of the video, it did seem like that was a risk. You don't ever really think it's going to actually happen, but it's like, can't believe it, but also can believe it at the same time, because like I say, he's had struggles with depression in the past, and he's tried this before, and he's managed it this time. He was a really nice man. I met him for the first time recently, very recently, a few weeks ago. We went to a demo, a protest at Belmarsh Max Security Prison, where they're holding Julian Assange. And of course, me and him have both been very passionate about that issue in the past, and with his attempt to have a judicial review instigated, he was really invested in that situation, and we went down together, and it was a really positive day. He came up the night before, and we had an evening and a night chatting into the early hours, and he was such a lovely man. On YouTube, he's obviously in philosopher mode, so he's obviously comes across quite serious, quite he's got his thinking hat on, he's got his philosopher hat on when he's on YouTube, but what you didn't see in his videos was that he's actually a very humorous and kind and gentle man as well, and I'd known that from talking to him online for years, but only just meeting him for the first time in person the other week, then he was even nicer, and just he was even nicer than I thought he would be, from knowing him online over the years, because you didn't see the warmth of him, you didn't see the humour so much very often. Sometimes you did, don't get me wrong, sometimes you did, but usually he's had his philosopher hat on, so you didn't see all shades of Justin on YouTube. There was much more to him than that. Big heart, really big heart, and kind and humorous and fun to be with. I had a really brilliant time with him, and I thought that might have helped him feel a little bit better, just to have some solidarity and friendship. I know he'd been struggling recently. But that's that. Just check up on people if you're worried about them. You know, try and keep in touch. This hyper-connected world, you know, everyone's always online or seems to be always available, and yet people can be very lonely, and it's not always obvious how precarious people's situations can be. I've been in contact with him. To be honest, the last week or so, I can't remember the last time we talked online. I had messaged him without reply a few days previous, but it seems like he was dead set on it. That's a shit choice of words. On Halloween as well, Justin, was that some kind of, was that trying to be funny on Halloween? Anyway, there isn't really anything else to say. I just, there's people worrying about him that know him through YouTube, and you aren't going to be able to find out any other way, I don't think. Unless you had him on, I don't know, well, whatever. There it is. R.I.P. Hythloday, suffering no more.